over the hills and far from wide. She's waiting for love to be realized. I'll send her my heart covered as a gift, and hope that you'll take it into her side.
Maybe I have to go in and do and delete the stuff or something like Duane has said.
Yeah, try and find that, Charles, because over the years, maybe at one time, maybe 1950 or so, that the upgrades were okay, but since then, and Microsoft owns Skype, and this is abrasive stuff. It's more spyware, more mind control. That's all it is. It doesn't make things better. The system's operating fine. And what they do is they move everything around to where it's even more confusing also, but it's more, it's like more emissions control on your car to where the car doesn't even run after a while. Yeah, so what we're experiencing is that a gradual breakdown of the whole system to where everybody's so restricted that they can hardly use it, and things even become out more distorted. This is what they're doing. They're purposely doing this. So again, you got to be creative and tricky. Yeah, try that, Charles. Go into your programs and see if it's there and get rid of it. They keep giving me the notice, but you don't need it. The Skype's working fine. What do I need an upgrade for? It's just more baggage and nonsense and configuration. Yeah, it's more spyware is what it is. Go ahead.
Okay, Duane, I would like to start by telling us some stories of things that have happened, transpired within the week. I would like to talk about some people who lead the new presentation, and they're trying to pull others along with them, which I find a little funny, because it doesn't work that way. Okay, an example of this is this lady who came in on the Skype one time, Josiane or Ernestine. She's been working in the background. She wants to she thinks the new presentation should fail because there's some kind of mind control and secret agenda that is going on, and we are just so those of us who are around, we are just too foolish that we cannot see this mind control that Duane is exercising on us and all that. So it's really a funny state of affairs to hear people say that someone who has not, in my opinion, you put her in, if I were to assess her, she's not even had a grasp of what the new presentation is all about. She's not understood the ABCs of the new presentation, and not to talk of the wider scope of the WWE. You see, the wonderful worldwide educators. She's not, and so to get all these kind of situations coming up. So in her latest, my computer is worrying. I can't locate what. In her she wrote a letter to me on Messenger, talking nonsense. So I I should inform one Robert. I don't know who is Robert amongst us here. She's and then the larger group that she's no longer a part of us. So I'm trying to locate that the answer. What I told her. It's not. This thing is so. It's so clogged, but I can't access what I've preserved.
Go ahead.
So
go ahead, Charles.
Yeah. So she wrote me that that note, and earlier in the week she approached Windy. She's not part of she doesn't attend the Skypes, but in the background she's still an adherent of the new presentation and is doing her own thing, following up and in her own way, you see, without this kind of intention of pulling others away from the new presentation. If at all they can do it. So she says, I don't know who is Rob. She said, I don't want Robert of the new presentation anymore. I want to be me. I want to be me and alone and know myself. And we can still stay friends. You can tell me the new, I'm not part of them. I tell the new group, I'm not part of them again. So I was surprised. Why this announcement? So I just tried to respond her, to make her understand that her leaving or her presence is immaterial. Same like if I were to leave the new presentation, it will not create a dent in the new presentation because it will still roll ahead. And I told her that many people have who were even more serviceable, more useful to the new presentation, have left. But it has not crumbled. If at all they thought that it would crumble because of their departure, it has not. And it's going from strength to strength. And it will be the same thing if she leaves. And I even told her that I don't even consider that she's been a part of the new presentation because of her faulty views, her lack of understanding. I doubt whether she even reads the books and understands. And now understand that not everyone really understands what Duane is writing. Maybe what I call Duanese. It's not everyone who can understand Duanese. And they need some interpreters. So that's a bit of what I got like trash from her this weekend. So I even told her that, look, it's just that we have taken a different approach. In the days of the corporation, you needed 2 years before people can even take you serious. And you must have attended trainings. I was an Arahata trainer, and before you pass that exam or anything, you must have shown a lot of mastery of the basics of what the Kanka is all about, or was all about. And I think with the new presentation, it should be the same. I don't know whether Uh, it's just that we've not put together we just have books and which people read at their own volition and all that. But if we were to have a manual, a working manual, this is what somebody should actually focus on when they come to the new presentation. You have to know this. What are you into? And what can you tell others about it in a focused manner? If we had that, maybe this kind of people who come in and just say rubbish without maybe having the time to read the books or attend the Skypes. You see, attending the Skypes and other meetings is just like going for the physical meetings we used to have in the days of the corporation, where you listen to others talk, ask questions, share opinions and ideas, and then there's a teacher controlling the class, facilitating the class, and those who had some gaps in knowledge were those gaps were filled and all that. So she really sort of pissed me off. So I just told her, look, I told her it's no news for you to announce that, in my opinion, you need about 2 years of study to qualify for me to even start thinking that you are part of the new presentation. Yes. So I say her leaving is of no consequence because she never really fully belonged to the new presentation in my own estimation. Okay. So I told her you were still largely out of it, and any old hand would tell you were still what they call a seeker. And seekers are free to come and go, including those who have spent how many years inside. So I told her she was a little apologetic. So, but we are still friends. I said, but who said we're not friends? I don't think I have time for useless friendships. So doing that is a bit of what I got.
Okay, wow, that could be a series on Netflix because they have all kinds of series now. I don't know if you're familiar with Netflix, but we watch some of the series and they're all also interesting. And I'm imagining Val is listening here. So yes, Val, this kind of sounds like the college thing, doesn't it? Here's the idea. You see how things get way out there? How they just kind of just keep spreading, you know? Just like a sprinkler head where it's broken and all of a sudden there's water everywhere and it's down the street and it goes, it goes to the next city even if it just keeps going, you see. So I always ask the question, of these people. They start to say this and that. Okay, everybody's going to say something. Everybody's going to have an idea. This is where you are ready for this, so you don't go through all the, you might say, politics that people create about the new presentation. See, the politics are a created thing. We were talking about this earlier. So I'd first patiently and kindly listen to the person, whatever they're saying. That's fine. Okay, I would just say, okay, whatever they're saying. I would just say, okay. And then if they're still interested in listening, I would say, oh, what do you want for yourself? Okay. That would be basically the first question. See, you're putting it back to them. When you keep answering and trying to this or that or whatever, and then you label them as a seeker, you see how it gets out of hand? And you might say you're in the court and that's being recorded. And everything you say will be held against you. So now all of a sudden everything looks funny. Is that how you want it to look? Well, it's going to look funny. You have to be ready for that too. You have to be ready for everything. Now what I'm sharing with Val and Kelsey is, especially Val here at the college, looking at every word that makes up those sentences. And the one of the last Star Wars movies we saw, and I just saw it was Luke. He was the old Jedi. It was called The Last Jedi. Well, in that, a couple times, really rather humorous. The lady wants to be. There's a gal wants to be a Jedi. You know, she would be like the last Jedi because he's ready to leave. And so she made a few statements, and he would say to her, "Every word you said in that sentence is wrong." So again, but it's just humorous. So here's the idea. See how scattered things get? See, all these ideas are flying out there like fireworks. And that's not going to resolve anything. And so if you want the adventure here, the real adventure to see this, okay, the new presentation is simply a true course to be able to, you know, it provides references to recognize the true reality life is. This is what the new presentation is. Now, when people say, well, it's a cult, or it's this or that, or wrote this stuff down as you're talking, mind control or a cult, or we have a secret agenda, okay, that's fine. I'm fine with that. I would just say, okay, all right, could you help me out here? That's a generalization, all right, mind control, cult, secret agenda, all these things. Those are generalizations, kind of like when you go to the library, you look up religion, politics, math. Okay, that's the general idea of it. But when you get into it, there's a whole lot more. So for the fun of it, if you want the challenge, I would ask the person, well, can you be more specifically specific about the generalization you're referring to? You know, just for the fun of it. See, what you're doing is you're constantly confronting the individual on what they themselves are creating. And this is what we're doing at the college. We're using all the statements and funny stuff they're saying, not against them, but we're showing them what they are saying because they're not realizing what they're saying. And most people that you talk to, again, this is where you perk up. They do not know what they're saying. They're just talking. They're just talking words. And again, I've used this reference. How many times have you talked to even your friends and you talk about issues and all of a sudden you'll say, oh, did you hear what you just said? And you know what? They, for the most part, they don't remember what they said, or they'll say, oh, I didn't say that. Because see, they don't listen. See, this is where you bring your real awareness in. So you've had the experience. Yes, I've been there myself, where all of a sudden you get upset or whatever. Is that an understanding? And when you're upset, it's hard to provide an understanding. So again, this is why the Skypes are like this. This is to prepare you for the real world, not the world that's glazed over at what you think is the world, okay? Whatever you think of the world, that's your personal view. And, people are talking all the time about, well, this person thinks this or this is this way. Again, many people think for others. Is that how the world is? Or is there more to it? Do you look more so at it? So this takes a while to learn to see this, how to see more. So again, when you just ask those questions, when the person says this or that, or it's mind control or whatever, see, I would say, first of all, I'd say, okay, then I'd ask a question. What do you want for yourself? And what's that person going to say? What are they going to say? Do you have an idea, Charles? See, are you ready for basically what they would say? You see what I'm saying? It's like a tennis game. You got to be ready for the next shot. So if you ask them that question, from all that stuff you said, let's just put all that aside, okay? We'll put that in the reference part of the building way in the back, okay? Now, if you ask this person, the same person, this question, what would you imagine would be the answer? What is it that you want for yourself? If you ask the question, if you just went through all that and straight on, you see, what would you imagine would be their answer?
Most will not even have an answer.
If
You
they
don't have
did
to.
have an answer, okay, see again, you're giving me a generalization. This is a test for you. Okay, this is a fun test. If they did have an answer, just give me an idea from your experience, all that experience you have as an educator, your life, past lives, and everything right now, what would you
Okay.
imagine would be their answer?
They'll say they want real freedom, for instance, or they want to be spiritually aware because people are still using these terms.
Okay, so which one are we going to pick? Is it going to be and or spiritually aware, real freedom? So we got to narrow it down. It's kind of like when you go to college. You've been there, and you have a counselor, and you're picking classes, but the counselor sees your classes, and at the same time you come into the counselor because you need help. So you got to narrow it down. So specifically, let's just play with one here. What would you say what does this person want from what you see? We're just guessing here. So again, we don't know their hidden intent motivations till we look at it. So on the surface, what would you say would be their answer? Just one answer.
Well, on the surface, uh, from my perspective, uh, they want something mundane,
They want something what?
something mundane, something.
Wait, see, you're moving around now. See, first you said spiritual awareness, real freedom. Now you're saying something mundane. See, you're adding to this. Do you see this? You see how the conversation goes? This is where it gets convoluted. I'm not picking on you here, but you got to pay attention. You got to keep it centered. I call it square one. Go back to square one. What's the idea here? Why did this person even come to this? Why are you here? You can ask that question. And what do you want? You see, very simple, very kind. See, then you don't get all this scattered stuff. So you narrow it down. You don't keep adding to it. You do math in school, right? And you know what a fraction is 700, or let's say 800 over 200. And what's the idea? Do you add to the fraction, or do you break it down to its smallest common denominator, which is 1/4? You see? You go the less resistant route, don't you? But when you keep adding things to it and ideas, it becomes more convoluted, more complex. This is what I'm sharing with Val. Keep it focused, because if you don't, and he's experiencing this, especially with the controllers and the administration at Orange Coast College, they make a mess of it. And we just bring it right back into focus each time. And they don't like that because they want to put up their front. Okay. They know that you might say they've screwed up, but now they're going to cover it up, just like the government. See, they make things look good out there, and then people buy it. But then all of a sudden, see, all deception shows up. It always shows up. It's all cause and effect. And when it starts to show up, what do? They create more things. They create cover up. So this is what I'm saying. Just pick one idea and we'll go from there. Just guess. Doesn't matter. But don't keep adding ideas, because you see now it becomes more convoluted, and we can't even remember after a while the original idea. You see? You got to write it down or you're going to forget. What were we talking about? How many times have you had a conversation with people, all of a sudden you start off in a subject and you can't even remember, you're going around the whole galaxy and you can't even remember what the original idea was. You see? It's learning how to focus. And this is where you become more aware. This is how you become self and consciously aware. Otherwise, you're just chasing ideas. You're constantly creating more ideas and you're chasing them, and it all ends up where? Nowhere. You're lost in your ideas and the ideas of others. You see? So let's just try one.
Real awareness.
Okay, so you imagine that's
And
what she said, her real awareness. Okay, so let's just say this person said that. Let's just said, well, uh, I'm interested in my real awareness. Okay, well then it's very simple, isn't it? Read the books to start off with and have fun. That's it. And if she doesn't want to do it, fine. That's it. See? And if you have questions, we're always here for you.
yeah, I think
Which
that's
we
a
are.
good
We're
way.
always here for them. Go ahead.
I think that's a good way to fend off so many questions, and yeah, by asking the person's real intent, I think we can be more focused on what to tell them.
Well, here's the idea too. You want to have some fun or you don't. It just depends upon the person. And many people, as an example, they come from religion or spiritual paths. And to try to give them an example of something, but it doesn't always work because, again, people aren't paying attention or they take it serious or think you're being sarcastic. You can also ask the question, can you explain God to me? You can ask that question of them because they've probably been familiar with that idea and they drag that idea consciously and unconsciously along with them just for the fun of it. Can you explain God to me? Well, probably for the most part, they'll have a few words where they'll go, no, I can't explain God. Well, God's everything. Again, a generalization, another idea. Okay. Well, you can say the same thing. The new presentation is everything. See, you can use exactly what they say. So, it's the idea here is that, okay, you use your generalization, I'll use mine. But realistically, if you really want to find out what we're doing, you're going to have to take the time to learn it and see it, aren't you? You see? So again, what am I sharing in the Skypes? Who's listening to the Skypes? Again, are people just showing up to listen? No, the idea is to get the idea of what to do and then to actually do it and make sense of things, not just put a bunch of words and ideas out there, but to actually make sense of things. Now you see why the consciousness of the world is so screwed up, because most people don't listen and they don't make sense of hardly nothing. They just do sound good things that they like to do, their barbecues, their TV, their whatever, vote for their politician, whatever it is, drive their cars, pollute the air. Hey, this is what we do. Everything stays a standard. And all the pollution and everything that we're sucking in every day, that's all fine too. It's become a standard, you see? So how are people going to wake up at all? So yes, it is a real challenge. So those of you that are here, you decide to take on this challenge to be a little tricky, you might say, to where people start to notice that, hey, you do make sense. But if they don't, they don't. That's it. It's a do or don't. There's no in between. There's no gray areas. There's no maybes. There's no belief, hope, faith involved in this. Just like the sun shining, it shines. It's awesome. Is there anything else about it? Is it happy? Is it sad? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it right? Is it wrong? No, there's none of that. And see, this is, again, this is the challenge to deal with. And this is where, most people, if you want to recognize your real awareness, you got to go through this process because you're carrying all these fallacies, these ideas that don't work, that don't refer to the isness with you. And they don't work. They do sound good. It's like, oh, I know this, or I'm with a new presentation. It's not about that. It's about your awareness. That's the whole thing. The new presentation is a reference. It is not a doctrine. It is not a teaching. You see, this is what's so cool about it. It's just really a cool reference to this reality to recognize, and then we stand being to being. But that's huge to do that. And so people will get along a little ways and they've got some knowledge. Knowledge is all created here. Everything here is created. What's so funny is when people look at history, what they're really looking at is somebody created something just because it's been around 1 million or 10 million years. Oh, and it's really an old idea that makes it better. Okay. Is the food in your refrigerator, if it's been there 2 or 3 years, is it better? Okay. I'd say it's rotten, beyond rotten, right? So you don't eat it, but people are sucking in all this old knowledge. Oh, they know about the aliens and all this stuff and whatever. I use this as reference to the all is, not as just information that sounds so interesting and fun to collect and oh, I know this and I know that. I'm the know-it-all. No, it's not about that. That's the worthless part of it. Because I can create anything, anybody can create anything. But because of how things are set up here, we use these things as reference, but otherwise they're toilet paper. They're worth nothing, nothing at all. What David Icke and everyone else is doing out there, it's worth nothing because it doesn't point to the all is. It doesn't point to that, and that's the toughie. So literal people especially, they're going to have the hardest time. For the most part, they probably won't even get it. Yeah, because it is too far too real. And so it's easier just to label what I'm presenting a this or that or a conspiracy or it's baloney or whatever. Fine. Hey, I'm fine anyhow. I'm with the real guys in the is, but I can't prove that. You got to prove it to yourself. So it's not about me, but again, some of the experiences that people will have, just like the African we shared a few weeks ago, seeing me on the real side and others, etc. Well, it's not about me. I'm just creating the reference so that you and everyone else can better understand. So this is the challenge for you to unravel all the funny stuff that you think is something, but at the same time, you turn it into, just like that toilet paper, you turn it into something useful that references the all is. So how you do that is up to you, because each situation is going to be whatever. It's going to be, and you decide to prepare for it or not. Or you just get your day going however it is and just make sure that it stays the same as it always has, and that's it. See, you're always the decider. You decide every moment. There's no waiting for life to decide because it's an isness. But it will back you if what you decide makes sense with what it is. That becomes the difference. So, yeah, that's a toughie to learn what it is and do things accordingly. Well, most people don't, even though they share all these cool ideas. Guess what? They only get themselves into trouble with cause and effect, and it gets worse. They become more tap line. So they spread themselves all over these things. They're in this religion, they're in this, they got all this knowledge going, etc. They're only getting tap line. The boys can't even keep up with them. Again, they're not going to take care of them. So again, you have to be very specific, just like raising a child. You're very specific with that, right? All your focus is on that child. Well, until it's an absolute love affair with this true reality, recognizing it, you ain't there. You got some knowledge, but that's it. So, these people are showing up. You decide how prepared you're going to be and how much fun you're going to have with it. Have fun with it, And again, I constantly say this, learn to ask the question. You see, then you're not on the defensive and you won't get upset about it. You'll be able to handle it and you'll be fine. And you know what? They may all of a sudden realize and recognize that, hey, you do know something and there is something here. You see what I'm saying? There is a difference, Charles. Go ahead.
Yeah, as you say, if people were to listen to some of these types, attend some of these online meetings, then they would understand that you are not, you don't have an agenda, any fake agenda. Or are you out to manipulate others? And they will understand who you are, who the real you are. The real you is